Okay, there you go. Let me just make life a bit easier. Just invite. Oh, I think our audio is pulling through to the starting screen on Twitch. Hello, everyone. Good evening to Wines and Winds fans. I don't think KP's in on the channel yet. Sorry, let me just... Yeah, sorry, let me unblock. Sorry about that. Okay, we should be able to hear KP now.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Yes, I was wondering, like, wait, what have I done wrong?
This is gonna be every week, so I hope everybody just
Yes.
like that's what we're doing.
This is just our thing, and a very fun thing.
Yeah.
So from my side, I like to do the whole let's introduce KP. So folks, of course we joined here by KP, as you all know, famous now, very super famous, and we're also joined here by some of you may know her as Ayotenshi, others may know her as Reiha, depending on which channel you follow her on. She'll be joining on the question side of things as well. And you can post questions on KP's Twitch, on my YouTube, and on the Discord channel if you have questions. But before we start, I'd like to first bring up what we are going to be discussing. So today we're going to be discussing facilities in general, especially in regards to animal care. We're going to be discussing a little bit of education into what you should be looking for when you're going to either support or visit an organization like this, whether they're good or bad, and what you should know in order to equip yourself with this knowledge. Now, obviously, nothing said here is absolutely 100% gospel. It's something for you to go and to research. But we have someone unfortunate enough, like KP, that can give us a little bit of knowledge with this. I will say what we're not going to cover is definitely we're not going to be covering the future of Venekwa. I know there's been a lot of hysteria and comments being made around. Obviously, we want to make very clear that unless it's coming from an official public release statement or announcements on the website, regardless of the person's position, whether it be an official or unofficial capacity, you should take it with a grain of salt. It is not a solid statement. So it could be something that just causes miscommunication and that. So those are the questions we're not going to be talking about in terms of, because we are going to be talking about facilities, and I know that's going to come in. So nobody knows about that.
And also just something that just come up on my channel, they're asking if we're going to be reviewing particular facilities. We are not singling out any one facility.
Absolutely.
Reason at all. So no, we're going to be giving you guys the tools to make informed decisions on your own, and not me telling you what you should.
Absolutely. This is a subject that I actually feel is very close to my heart because I live in a country where it is full of facilities, and a lot of them that I've been to unknowingly have actually been counterproductive to what I was trying to achieve, and that's basically supporting animals and that. So the first question, if I can bring it up myself, is... Absolutely. And I think this is the one most important one. It's the common perception that a non-profit organization run facility is 100% good and a profit sort of facility is 100% bad. Is that true? Are they good profit facilities and so on?
Yeah, there are absolutely good for-profit facilities. I think that, that can be a tool you can use, because in general, like a non-profit facility is going to be maybe a little bit more like a charity, and maybe it is. Maybe it really is a charity-run organization. But just because they put that stamp on there doesn't necessarily mean that, because like that non-profit word can mean a lot of things, right? So it's not, it can't just be an all-encompassing
Yes.
thing, that thing. And there are a lot of facilities that do good things and still make money. And sometimes they're putting that money into other things that we're not getting to see, but it is still counting as profit. So that's a really hard thing because there's so much involved in the economics of all of this. And when you can and cannot call yourself a non-profit, or there's also not-for-profit, what does that mean? I mean, so
Yes.
there's so many different levels of that, that I don't really, it can be a tool, but it is just a tool. So I wouldn't say that for sure that's your answer. You're going to pick something that's always a non-profit.
Yes. Any questions you got so far? Let's see.
I actually don't see any. I'm actually just listening, and that's okay too, because we can just talk about this.
Okay, no, that's perfectly fine. If I may ask then the next question as well. So, okay, so if I'm going to visit an organization, what sort of research or what is an easy way to find out the organization I'm supporting it if they have good intentions or mostly good intentions, if I can put it that way?
Yeah. So, this is a great question. I like to look for certain accreditations. So there are organizations like the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, like I think it's like the Humane Society, that are doing sometimes like spur of the moment, like sometimes like at certain facilities you'll literally be just working and they're like, oh my gosh, they're stopping by today, like they just pop in out of the blue, and are basically auditing your facility for how you're doing, animal welfare wise, facility structures, like all of these things are taken into consideration, and if you're accredited by one of those facilities, or one of those organizations I should say, then in general, that is a really, really good sign. Um, so you can actually go to the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and you can basically look at their list of accredited facilities, and it will also tell you information about those facilities. So I think it's AZA.org or AZA, Americans.org, and that's a really great tool for you guys to have just right there, that then you can go
Yeah.
through and look. And again, it is just a tool. So I want to stress that. So I'm not saying that
Absolutely,
every single
yes.
facility on there, but it is, that is a third-party organization that comes in and audits facilities, and makes sure they're doing a good job for their animals, for their
Yes.
guests, and for everything.
So obviously that's something credited. I do want to apologize in advance. I see there was some people experiencing some audio issues. It seems like everything is better. It was on my side. This is streaming live. We're professionals. We get things wrong. Which is sticking to the theme. Okay, so far I'm just seeing if there's any questions so far. So this is basically going to be from our side and that. Larry, have you got any questions so far, or can I just move on?
Beans has a question.
Yes.
What are things to look for in animal behavior that would be a sign that the zoo isn't taking care of the animals as they should?
Oh wow.
This is a great question, because so this is kind of getting into the conversation about what we call stereotypical behaviors, and what a lot of people deem as those types of behaviors. So for instance, like the biggest example that I can think of this that people often see is pacing with animals, tigers or bears and stuff like that. And you guys have all probably seen something like this happening. And it's generally thought of as a bad thing. And it's not to say that it can't be a bad thing, but animals do this for all types of reasons. And what I see when I see an animal doing that is an animal that's for some reason, like, excited or about something. And excited can be good or excited could be bad. Like it could be like more anxious rather than excited. So there are good and bad things about that. So I don't like to take that. Again, the whole theme of today is going to be like, don't just grab one thing and be like, this is the case. But because that looks like a bad thing, or we're trained to think that it's a bad thing. But sometimes, like, I can tell, like if I'm at a good facility and I see that happening, I generally think that something interesting is going to happen at that exhibit soon. Like the animal knows something, the animal's heard the keepers or something like that. So maybe food's coming, and that's just an animal that's excited. And your dog does the same thing, they get excited to go for walks. They start jumping and doing things like that. And we look at that and we can see that it's excitement because you know the context surrounding that behavior. But when you don't have the context, that's so it is something that you can look at. And if you sit there and watch the animal for 4 hours and that's all they do, then maybe it is a problem. But if you're just walking around, and this is, I think, a general problem at all facilities, and myself included, although I think as a keeper, I spend my time at zoos a little bit differently than maybe most people do. I mean, I like to sit and watch for a long time, because they can be doing interesting things. And when you just get a snapshot, you just walk by, you see the animal for 2 minutes, you're not getting a proper idea of what their day looks like, and you're passing a judgment on something that you have a very exactly, a very small idea of what's going on. So those are behaviors that I think that you should be on the lookout for. But again, make sure that you're getting context for these behaviors. And if everything else about the facility looks amazing, and you were just like, it was just weird that the tiger kept walking back and forth in front of the bars. Well, maybe when you come back, they're getting like, now you come back and they've got like all this crazy enrichment, and you realize, okay, well, that's probably what they were doing. They were getting really excited about something that was going to happen. I don't know, things you can really look out for: animals that play with toys. Animals that are playing with toys are relaxed animals. So that's great to see. Animals that are sleeping. I think that sometimes this is viewed a little bit weird too. Like, oh, they're so bored, all they have to do is sleep. Well, dude, animals, like, first of all, animals love to sleep. And if the animals are sleeping, then they are very comfortable. Animals do not sleep if they're uncomfortable in their surroundings. Okay. So that's something that I would look out for and say is a really good thing. Looking for natural behaviors. I think really, really good zoos and facilities try to emphasize natural behaviors, try to make sure that the animals have enrichment that is that allows them to do things like foraging and stuff like that. So if you're seeing a lot of natural behaviors of the animals, I think that's those are all good signs. So that's a great question, Beans, and I think that's kind of that's kind of a crash course in things that I look for in animals. Oh, breeding too. Yes. A lot of people think or will be like, oh, they breed their animals or whatever. Man, breeding, there are very few things animals love to do more than breeding. So I love to see breeding at facilities because those animals are comfortable. Again, animals that are uncomfortable don't breed. And they're having a good time. So, that's an enriching, stimulating part of their lives. So that's something that you can look for that shows you really like comfortable animals.
That's actually a really good statement that he actually made there about context being so important. And I think it's relevant for anything in life. And we've seen it even on our stream, that if you're watching something for just 2 minutes, that is really not enough information to make a determination of what is actually going on there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's okay. Yeah. It's good to ask questions and Absolutely. Be like, okay, I have a question about something that I saw, but that's what you should be doing is asking questions. Are made. Yeah. Gaining more context is always important. So.
Yeah. If anything, I know that is with YouTube comments when people make questions based on 2 minutes of what they've seen without context.
Yeah, yeah.
Why did you put this up? Is this pointless? Like, oh, of course.
Yeah, everybody is an expert on YouTube for sure.
Yes. Obviously, we're still open for questions about the animals and the otters as well, and anything else. So don't feel free to continue to ask about that. We're just obviously trying to focus in on a specific topic as well here. I don't know who asked the last question. Yes.
Okay, so Barma had a question that says,
Okay.
"What is your professional opinion on places like SeaWorld and Busch Gardens?"
Ooh.
Yeah.
Although,
I know we said we weren't going to talk about specific facilities, but I am gonna. I mean, this is a huge facility, and it's obviously not like my 58 viewers are not going to influence the business of SeaWorld. So, but SeaWorld is an amazing facility. And I'm just going to broadly put that out there. There are things that they're not doing super great, that they are trying to change. For instance, like I think the way they do their shows is a bit silly. And I haven't seen one in a while. So maybe things have changed. And I know they were moving towards more of an educational. I prefer much more of an educational show, and I think it is very possible to do amazing and still entertaining, but also educational shows without dancing and fireworks and stuff. But SeaWorld saves more animals every year than probably any facility in North America combined, like all of them, zoos, aquariums, doesn't matter. So even though this is a great example of a profit organization that gives back endlessly
Yes.
to the community. So just because they're making money, they spend a lot of money rescuing animals. And they're the only facility in the world that can rescue some of those really big ticket animals because they have that kind of experience.
Yes.
So
And resource and funds.
Oh, exactly. They've got the funding. And they also have the funding to take unlimited, amazing care of their animals. So there's never a question on price tag for anything. If the trainers want a new enrichment item that costs
They can
$3,000
do it.
for the killer whales, sure. You think it's gonna be awesome for them? You think they're gonna enjoy that? Then absolutely. We've got that kind of money.
Yes.
We'll give it to you guys. So yeah, I mean, without getting too far into like the whale and dolphin kind of situation, I support SeaWorld. And I think that you guys should support SeaWorld too. It is a really, really good facility. That I've been to, that I've applied for jobs at, and have friends who work at. So a little insider info.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's an amazing facility, and they do amazing rescue and rehab work. So.
Because it's very easy to
I
forget.
just want to.
Yeah,
Oh,
carry on.
sorry.
Carry on.
Oh, no. I just wanted to add on to what KP was saying about SeaWorld. And if anyone has ever followed Monterey Bay Aquarium and their entire sea otter surrogacy program, that program is actually carrying over to SeaWorld in California. And SeaWorld is going to be adding on to that program to help save the southern sea otter population.
Yeah, I mean, SeaWorld is essentially single-handedly responsible for the saving of many, many species. And also, it's one of those things, and this is, again, maybe we're getting a little off topic, but it was bound to happen anyway. I mean, what are we, 19 minutes in? Yeah, we were past due to just completely derail the conversation. But literally nobody would care about killer whales if not for SeaWorld, because killer whales used to be demonized and
killer whales, it's in the name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And feared and all of those things. And SeaWorld brought them to people and showed people that they're actually really amazing animals, and that we should care about them.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot the same for dolphins and stuff like that too. So yeah. I mean, yeah. Anyway, I think SeaWorld is an amazing.
I think
facility.
that's a statement to say for all animals, because even in South Africa we've got an extension of SeaWorld, and that's in our own fruition. And to be perfectly honest, I would have never gone over. Listen, sharks are still don't be stupid and jump in the water, bleed in the water, and expect decent results. But I mean, they had a whole education program about sharks. You could swim with the sharks; they would be at the bottom, but you were at the top. And trust me, that felt the most anxious thing. But the education was there. You leave there with appreciation. Okay, so you know what? How many sharks die a year because of fin soup and all this? There was a very big value that was added to that because we went to SeaWorld. But I actually think that's very true, and it's like you said, it's the context of it. I would have never
Yeah.
never considered killer whales or any animal. And we forget that the people working there are just like yourself. They're people who grew up loving animals, who have studied and got the qualification and are now in the field that they enjoy helping these animals. They're not terrible people. They're not businessmen just who happen to know how to teach a dolphin to do something.
There is also there's a business side to all of these things.
Of
I mean, you
course.
can't operate. I mean, I think sometimes people have problems with it. Not this isn't we're not even on SeaWorld anymore, but just in any facility about people making money off of these animals, and that's not really the point. Well, firstly, the facilities have to make some sort of money.
Yes, in order
There's no free, there's no government funding for a lot of these places, and most of them. And so, they need to make money in order to do the programs that they want to do. And having guests enjoy those animals is so important for me, I think. Having people come in and look at those animals, like it's not, people think of it as exploitation, but it's like, first of all, the animals don't care. They barely even notice when people are around. But secondly, like, the experiences that are gained from these people, and the way that they are changed, and even if just once a day, one person going through one facility is changed forever and changes the way that they operate and recycles more, or donates to an organization, or decides to go into a career like this, then the world is changed. And so that's what I believe in, and what's happening at these facilities. At good facilities, you're getting educated and inspired, and inspiring people is super important for not just ocean life, but all animal life. It's how we learn about these guys.
Yes, absolutely. And you can correct me if my statement's wrong, but I've always believe, because it also is the common trope at the moment, that when you donate to an organization or you pay for that ticket, all that money is going to someone at top, and very little is going to the actual care of the animal. And my impression of that is for any organization, the money is going to be distributed, but as long as some of it is getting to the animal, as long as you see them getting looked after and fed, you should not immediately cut off the strings just because the impression is someone at the top is getting it.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's going to be very rare that first, like, that literally you write a check and, like, some CEO or something like takes it to the bank and then just puts it in his pocket and goes out for dinner. Like that's not really what's happening, right? Like there are things in place, there are legal things in place where that money goes through a system. And of course, we can't always dictate, like, I want 100% of this money to go to this specific animal, because that's not the way facilities work. There are, even though there are, like, we want it to go towards the care of the animal. Well, what if instead it went towards water filtration? And that's not directly feeding the animal, or, it doesn't, like, the animal doesn't necessarily see that money, but it's very, very important for that animal to have really high water quality. So sometimes when this money is going to different places and it's not necessarily, you don't see it in the form of, like, toys and treats and stuff, that doesn't mean that it's not benefiting the animal, because really, even if it goes towards a marketing campaign for selling more merchandise, and then those sales on that merchandise is going to come back into the facility. I mean, all of that is, it's just so hard to say. And of course, we don't get to see the entire big picture. But even if you, like, honestly, if you did research, you could probably, like, uncover some of this stuff, but it would take you, like, days and days. Nobody wants to do that kind of work. But yeah, I mean, just because there's legal things going on here, so it's not just like somebody's buying yachts with
mismanagement of funds that someone's running away with it. Because I mean, we see every day the animals are eating and the people are there, so there has to be some, maybe not all of it, but there's something going on there that is correct in a way. So
So for sure.
I've got a very quick question here. Are the animals that can be stressed from having humans around all day? Are you aware of this?
Yeah, I mean, and I think this wouldn't be like I wouldn't be able to say that there's a particular species or something like that that is like that. So, like, a takeaway from this is not going to be every animal of this species is like that, but you might have individual animals that are like that. And typically what would happen then, I would think, would be the facility would kind of try to adjust the animal, try to show the animal that this is actually a positive thing to have lots of people around. Or you can also, I've been places where, you know, and you probably have too, when you've got like nocturnal animals, you're advised to like be quiet and no flash photography, and stuff like that that are aimed at making sure you're not disturbing the animals. And so, yeah, I mean, that can definitely be a thing, but typically, like at a good facility, at somewhere that you should be supporting, they'll be taking measures like, please be quiet in this area. Like there's a new animal. A lot of times newer animals on exhibit, you'll actually see a sign that says, we've got a new animal in this area. Please be respectful, a little bit quieter.
Photography. I've seen that before.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so yeah, that can happen, but there's not really like a species. I don't think that inherently finds like people, you know. Also, facilities have the ability to do one-way glass, so you know, animals aren't even really seeing you and stuff like that. So, so yeah, I mean, it's you know, always read the signs. This is one of my things, like at facilities, is people who like walk up and they don't read the signs. Like the signs are there for a reason, like, you know, and they can be educational too. Like the amount of times that people walk up to our habitats and like adults, and they are not even reading the sign, and they're just telling their kids like misinformation about the animals. Like, just read the signs, read the signs. It's one of my pet peeves. So, so yeah, I mean, it just make sure you're paying attention to the signs, and you know, facilities should be telling you if there are animals that you need to watch out for. So
we've all seen how that happens, and I've seen it, and it is my pet peeve, so I'm not going to get into it. When parents hang their children over the banisters or make them sit in the banisters.
Oh God.
Yeah. Well, how those incidents happen. It's such
I mean, obviously respect the barriers whenever you go. They're there for a reason. These things happen. You know, I don't know, for some reason. I don't know what it is that people. I don't know what's going on in their heads, and sometimes I feel like people go to a zoo or an aquarium and they think that like for some reason now it's the staff's job to watch out for their kids too, which is really odd. And I'm like, well, that's absolutely not true. I'm not watching your child, so you should probably do that. Yeah. So I mean, respect the facility, respect the signs, respect the barriers. All of these things are good practice. Yeah.
Yes.
I had a question here.
Questions.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You have it?
Reiha's got it. Well, did you write down Georgie's question? I just saw it and I just
there was two actually.
Okay, cool. So, okay.
If you want this one first, so it's how can you determine how legit research / conservation efforts are that zoo / facilities state they're doing?
Mm-hmm.
It seems that it could be easy for them to say we're doing this and that, but how can you verify it?
Yeah. I mean, again, like in general, like especially like these big ticket places and stuff, they're not just like, they're not going to say something if it's not true. Like they're not going to say something in a public place, like on a website, if it's not true, because people will find out, right? Like, and then imagine getting called out for that, like, oh, you just bold-faced lied about like this research you were doing. So, so in general, that stuff is going to be at least you know, mostly true. And then I would look for you can look for stuff in the past there, because it's hard with research projects that are currently going on. You don't usually get a lot of that information. Like they're not going to necessarily put forth a lot of that information. So because it has to get published and stuff like that. But you can look in the past research projects, published papers, peer-reviewed articles. I can't stress this enough. Like if you go somewhere and it's like somebody's blog post about how they taught, a tiger how to speak English, like that's not research, we're talking peer reviewed, like scientific articles published in scientific journals. That is legitimate research. And if a facility has lots of like a history of a lot of past research projects from something like that, legitimate research resources, then that's a good sign that like a facility like that has all this research already is not going to say things that are not true about research that they're currently doing. So yeah.
We have a non-faculty related question, but I thought I would ask this is, how does weather or climate change affect otters or otter behavior in the wild? Do they migrate to escape, or does it totally destroy their habitat?
Specifically for climate change, that's a really good question, and I don't know if there's a lot of sources on this. Sea otters don't typically migrate a lot. So even just like seasonal changes, the males will sometimes move around trying to find groups of females, but like typically they're like, dude, there's food here. Like, why in the world would we go anywhere else? And they're very capable of existing in a number of different temperatures. I imagine it would be really interesting to see. And I know there are some biological differences between northern sea otters and southern sea otters, because there are two different, you guys know there's two different like kind of like almost subspecies basically of sea otter.
Yes.
So it'd be interesting to see, because obviously the southern sea otters living more in like the California area, those are generally going to be warmer temperatures, at least air temperatures and even water to a slighter extent than like animals living up in Alaska or Russia or wherever. So it'd be interesting to see, and I don't know the answer to this. Like, I wonder if their hair density is a little bit less, would be something that I would think that you might see. I know their southern sea otters are slightly smaller, which kind of goes with the trend of bigger animals live in colder climates because it's helps them to maintain proper body temperature. So I don't know that I can't really speak too much on. I haven't seen any information on specifically sea otters being affected by climate change, but I think that we can rest assured that everybody's affected by climate change. But more so like for human related impacts for sea otters, I would think more of like ocean debris, garbage. I would,
because they eat plastic, thinking it's jellyfish and all that.
Yeah, or even if they get something tangled around them. So we always say lose the loop, and we see it more with sea lions, but that doesn't mean that it's not happening with sea otters. You know, cut your loops on everything because animals can get their body parts stuck in them. And I actually think Alaska Sea Life Center had a sea otter with a zap strap stuck through its paw, I believe, or something like that. That sounds kind of, I'm pretty sure that's what happened up there. Anyway, he's fine now. He's good. Back out in the ocean and everything. But yeah, so ocean debris. And then we also talked a little bit about flushing your cat litter, and that is causing disease in sea otters. So that's something we talked a little bit about. So don't flush your cat litter, please. Get the, I use the, yeah, and I don't know how feasible this is. I've never owned a cat, but like for my ferrets, we have recyclable paper litter and we compost it. So there's some easy ways
to have a really good cat vegetable garden, basically.
yes.
But that is I think we have a very big organization in Namibia here that their sole purpose is to rescue sea lions or seals mostly that have been caught with plastic or have wire around them. But I think to answer that question, I actually saw that very recently. The biggest danger when it comes to climate change or the change in temperature within sea currents is the actual kelp farms, because if they end up being affected, the otters will be affected. So
absolutely. I mean, it's all a chain, right?
Yeah.
Like, if their food source is messed up, then they are going to have to go somewhere else to find it. Yeah, it's just so impossible to protect, like, butterfly effect type of situation. But yeah, rest assured that it's, it's something we should all be really concerned about and caring about, not just because of cute sea otters, but, actually walruses, very affected by climate change.
Yes.
I hate to plug walruses. I don't. I love plugging walruses. It's fine. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
We had another question on Twitch. It was, what sort of animal experiences that zoos and facilities offer would you suggest that we avoid, or maybe harming the animals?
Yeah, this is a great question, and JJ will probably have something to say about this too. We talked a little bit about this off stream, but yeah, I mean, I do not recommend any facility that's really going to like allow you to snuggle with baby animals. Like there are facilities that that you'll be like, yeah, like, oh, pay this much money to hold a lion cub. Well, things you should be asking yourself is like, firstly, where in the world did this lion cub come from? Like, where's its mom? Like, what's going on? And why would you like? Why would this be a thing? Like, why are we taking pictures with? There's so many things here. I just like trying not to rage. But like, basically, like, first of all, this is giving the wrong impression. This is, teaching people the wrong thing about these animals. Like, you should respect these animals and understand that they're wild animals and understand that they're dangerous. And taking pictures, snuggling and holding baby, whatevers is not really, in my opinion, teaching people that. Now, maybe these are. It's also possible that these are good facilities that are just trying to like raise money for their projects, and this is the best way that they could think of doing it. But there are so many better ways to raise money. Yeah, and like it's I don't like and this is getting into another topic that we might cover depending on where we're at time wise, but the exotic pet trade, this is where these things come from. These people think that these animals are pets, or would make good pets, or that they could handle them as pets, and it's just not true. And it just like sends the wrong message. And the exotic pet trade is such a big problem. So those types of things. I don't want to paint blanket statements, because it's also possible that there are. I don't want to say like you shouldn't ever touch any of these animals, because when we do encounter programs at the aquarium, people do often get to touch the animals, and I think that's cool. That's okay. Like you're showing the animals it depends on how you're doing it though, right? If you're like, you can give the sea otter a noogie, like, hold it in a headlock and rub its forehead. Like that's not great, but but there are ways of doing like hands-on programs that can be, showing people cool things about the animals while still respecting the animal's space. But in general, like especially just holding baby animals, like it's just a weird thing. Or looking at like the animals too, some facilities, like I hate to call them even facilities, but like some places are drugging these animals. Like whenever you're going, taking a like picture with like 6 full-grown like tigers, like those tigers don't look all there to me, and I don't have like the insider information to say, but that's like, that's something that those facilities can and do at their disposal to make money off of those animals. So in general, there is a difference between, exploitation and like inspiring and educating people. And hopefully you're starting to see that and make, like, again, because I can't make those decisions. Yeah, I didn't see Tiger King because I couldn't. This is my chat's talking about Tiger King right now. I couldn't bring myself to watch it because this is the type of stuff that like really makes me mad.
That show was dreadful. Just
I couldn't even. I'm not even gonna. I can't even say it because I didn't see it. So, but yeah, I just that's the kind of stuff, and you guys can see that, right? There's a difference between exploitation and education.
It's amazing how I think what we're bringing up pre-chat is, and we've covered this lightly with Jen Giraffe, is it is amazing how a facility can look official when it wants to be with uniforms and things like that. But my experience is I fell victim to that, where I went to a lion cub facility where you could pet the cubs, and they sort of went through the process of educating you about lions and so on, to only figure out that when a cub grows up and they've been tamed, they have no purpose or use. So they either get sold, or they get to circuses, or to overseas hunters. So they come here specifically to hunt them. But it was a terrible thing to find out. And you think that you were supporting an organization to find out that most of the country, and disclaimer, I'm just saying that apparently most of the lion facilities in my own country are that type of facility where they breed cubs specifically for that trade to have a pet, and then they dispose of them in some fashion or way after when they grow up. And it's a very, very sad thing to see. Something not, and this isn't to be related to animal farms. Animal farms, you go to an animal farm. I've been to an animal farm near our place. They have animals that are either within, like they actually are domesticated animals in terms of either being goats or cats, that sort of thing. That's a little bit different because they live there forever.
Yeah, and I think too, this kind of circles back to my point though of asking questions first. So like you know, you've decided to look at this facility and you're kind of going, okay, wait, why are they doing this type of program? And then you ask questions and maybe you find out, oh, okay, there is actually a valid reason why they're doing this. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And then maybe it is an organization you want to support. Or maybe you start asking those questions and you go, wait a minute, this is all starting to sound really weird to me. Or maybe they don't want to answer questions. And I think, you know, places that don't want to answer questions, that could be kind of telling too, because why don't you want to answer questions, you know? And I love welcoming questions, and these are hard discussions that we're having, but I think they're important for us to have, because you should look at a facility and you should go, okay, I need to decide what's up here and what's going on and if I should support them or not. And those are absolutely valid questions for anybody to have. So yeah, I mean, and it's also okay to have experiences like JJ had, where he, like, you know, feels bad about going and supporting this place, but you know what, then from there he's able to make informed decisions, tell his friends to make informed decisions because of having, you know, one bad experience, and you know, probably better at making those decisions now than he was before. So it's okay to make mistakes too along the way.
It's I learned from that. I went there completely oblivious. But then you start to ask questions. So always ask questions. I mean, I know someone just brought up something about the Kevin Richardson organization. That's something that obviously is not wise to comment on, but do your own research. Ask a lot of questions. Find out as much information as you possible. I was going to mention about the exotic pet trade. That is something that is even huge here. You have one, ferrets. We actually need a license to own a ferret. And it's amazing how many of our own pet stores and that, which we go to every day, will say, here's a ferret, it requires a license, but don't worry, I'll sell it to you for 3,000 rand. And it's like,
right.
No,
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, like I do own ferrets. Ferrets are kind of a weirder thing because they're kind of, I feel like, in between, you know, like
they're exotic,
like at least
pets.
Yeah, the ferrets that I have in anyway, you know, because there are people in the UK and stuff have like polecats, man. Like these are real ferrets. Like my ferrets would never survive out in the wild. But so ours are basically like slightly domesticated over here in North America. But yeah, I mean, I'm not above obviously the exotic pet thing and the lure of some of that stuff, right? I mean, like I totally get it, you know, like, and the reason that I originally got ferrets is because they are closely related to sea otters, and I loved sea otters.
And they're so cute.
Yeah, and they're so cute. So there is a lure there, but I did, like, this is the thing, right? Like I did so much research surrounding this. But there are also just like some, see, this is the thing too, right? And oh gosh, we are down a rabbit hole for me where I'm getting really excited, but there's so much to talk about.
Look there, there it is. So cute.
Yeah, because there is like there are facilities. Like I said, there was a baseline you could look at azza.org and look at places like that for accredited facilities. There are also good facilities that are not AZA accredited. AZA is a huge organization that does that, you know, and you actually you do have to pay for the accreditation. So there are some facilities that just don't have that kind of money. And so I don't want to do like a blanket statement. Well, there are no blanket statements in this stream, if you've noticed so far. But basically, you know, there are really good facilities, and there are even really good private exotic animal owners, right, that have done their research and take really good care of the animals. But the point is that those are the exceptions that prove the rule, right? Yes. That you shouldn't own these types of animals. Also, you wouldn't really want to, like, when you really think about it. And I tell this to everybody who sees how cute the ferrets are. They are really cute. This is not a pet for everybody, guys. Like, they
absolutely. You're a trained person. You've done your research.
Yeah, and I am a trainer, like an animal trainer. So it's, you know, it's a little bit different. But, you know, like, there are people that shouldn't even own cats and dogs, you know? So, like, absolutely. This is like, it's a responsibility. And you have a responsibility to make sure that animal has the best possible life that animal can have. And that becomes exponentially harder the more exotic that the animals get, you know? What hope do you have of ever giving a primate a proper life in your home in, you know, Eastern US, you know? I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Apartments, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and again, we're kind of seeping into another conversation, but it doesn't mean that these people are bad people, but you have to, like, the amount of research, you know, sometimes people come in and they go, oh, I want to keep a sea otter, and I'm like, you really don't. And they're like, no, I really do. I'm like, you seriously don't. Like, you know, I mean, they're cute to look at, but my gosh, like, can you even imagine? Like, all right, well, you have to shell out $35,000 a year just on one sea otter's diet. So have the most fun with that, you know? I mean, like, it's...
You walk out of your room and half the things have been unscrewed or dismantled.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have a cat eye.
Yeah, exactly.
But you raise a good point there. It's doing the research. I mean, there's a reason why in this country, because like I said, it's different in every country. So America, there's different rules, and here you need a license. It's because you need to go through the proper sort of education before you purchase an animal like that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you won't be able to facilitate it. I didn't even... I've babysat a ferret before. It was the most fun thing ever, but I had to feed it a specific diet that was so strict for that specific ferret. Yeah. And this person, like, went through the process, had the license, everything. But pet stores will just be like, here you go, take it. It's fine. It's a pet.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I don't think, quite understand, like, what goes on at a facility, like what we're looking at when we look at diets and what we go through to make sure that the animals are enriched properly, and like all of these things are happening. And if you're going to own an animal like that, you have to do that. And so, like, a lot of these things are happening on a whim. Like, I think I've talked about can't remember if it was on our Monday morning shows, but that I watch this, like, vet show sometimes that's in Florida, and they like, oftentimes, like, they'll bring in, like, these really sick monkeys, and they're like, oh, well, you know, we just we're not sure what's wrong with it. And they're like, well, it has herpes, which is a really serious issue in primates. And like, it's deadly in primates. And they're like, how could that have happened? And they're like, well, I brought it to Safeway last week with me. Like you can't, like, the things that it's just crazy. It's just madness. Like, stop owning monkeys and bringing them to Safeway, please. Like, for a variety of reasons. Like, first of all, it's not good for the monkey. Secondly, I don't want your monkey at my Safeway. Can you knock it off? You know, what's going on? Like, yeah. So anyway, as a general rule, like, we should all just look at the animals and appreciate them and learn about them without owning them would be great.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I believe all three of us are technically exotic pet owners, which is pretty...
Oh, because you have guinea pigs. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
They
are considered exotics in a weird way, but yeah, they're pretty...
Yeah.
I mean, almost
touchy.
Everything except for, like, dogs and cats are
cats.
yeah.
But I mean,
Considered.
the amounts of money I fork out for my bearded dragon
Mm.
every month, and she's been at the vet every month just because I'm that kind of parent. I'm like, I need to check if she's okay. But it's the lighting, it's the temperature, it's the
Yeah.
food that she eats, it's how many times a day I
Mhm.
got to take her out, how many times I got to bath her, and I wouldn't do this again. But I did this because she was in a horrible state in a pet store, and my heart was like, I can't do this.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the amount of research I had to go into a bearded dragon, such a simple
Oh,
looking
God.
creature, was amazingly. There's so much you have to do.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's-
absolutely. And all of
Yeah.
that stuff makes a difference. Like even when I'm, I worked at the Denver Zoo for a while, and we had hundreds of animals in my department, but like a lot of them are like frogs and stuff like that. But like
Yes.
the amount of like care that, I mean, like, and diet prep, and all these animals have like very specific, on Sundays we give them crickets, and on Tuesdays it's like, it's literally like that. And we have to mist them 6 times a day. I mean, like, it's really like, it's intense. Like, there's a reason that like professionals are doing this, and that everybody doesn't own poison dart frogs, because it's just they're hard to take care of. So snakes too, like they have to have like such a specific humidity. I mean, like, it's just I don't know why anybody would really want to do this, but
lizards are close enough to snakes in terms of their temperature have to be
Yeah.
constant. So when the power goes off, we have something called load shedding.
Oh,
It is a
yeah.
nightmare during winter of trying to
Oh.
wrap my lizard up in a burrito, basically, to
yeah. Oh
to
my
keep her
gosh.
awake, because they get very lethargic, and if they get too cold, they fall asleep because they're like, well, I guess it's winter now. I'll fall asleep.
Yeah, it's time to hibernate. Goodbye.
Yeah. So it's a
Interesting.
thing. So just I
Yeah,
see
that-
some people saying, what are we busy talking about? We are still about the facilities and legitimacy, but within that legitimacy comes with owning exotic pets and getting them from the right place as well, and making smart decisions about owning a pet.
Mhm.
But yeah, we sort of went sidetracked a little bit there.
Yeah, if anybody has questions related to facilities
Yeah.
and stuff like that, please keep them coming. But
Any questions?
Yeah. No, Georgie had a question earlier, but
Yes.
pretty much JJ's discussion kind of covered that question. So I just kind of crossed it off because it was generalized in everything that you were saying about visiting the facility.
Yes,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that that we always have to look at, and it's a weird line in some places too, because like for instance, I've not gone to like Ren Fests because they had like elephants that you could ride, and I was just like, not feeling super great about that. And to be honest with you, I'm like, just being forthright, I didn't actually even look into it. I just felt bad about it. I just felt not good about it, and so I decided not to support it. But then there are other places like that I've like other zoos and stuff that do like riding like camels or that offer like stuff like that for like an extra paid thing that I do support. So it's kind
Yeah.
of one of those things where like I said, it's not just because it's one activity. Like I can't give you one thing and say never ride elephants. Like I
Yes.
just need you to look at the facility, like look deeper, and if something seems off to you, like do some research about it and stuff like that. And because there isn't just like a one size fits all.
Absolutely. It's about doing the research that goes behind it.
Yeah.
And you
This really goes for all things, do research.
You mentioned that elephant thing, and it's my friend's been overseas in that, and we did a lot of research in that. And there's a difference between there's some mass market places overseas where they give elephant rides and they abuse the animals, and then there's the local facilities. It's amazing. They actually they don't go specifically looking for elephants, but they'll find elephants that are abandoned, and the owner themselves will grow up with the elephant, and that elephant will not obey anyone else but the
Yeah.
owner, and they actually have
Yeah.
a relationship. They share their lives together. It's
Yeah.
about doing the research.
And there are places that use elephants that that's actually like they're basically taking elephants, because there's a lot of like confrontation or with elephants in various different parts of the world, because they are very destructive animals, and so a lot of times they're destroying people's farms and stuff like that. But there are places that are literally taking problem animals and using them for a variety of different things, like giving them a second chance at life, because otherwise these animals will just be shot too. So like, yeah, exactly. Like, these are things that you have to look at. Like,
Yes.
oh, this is a rescued animal who now like gets to just like bumble around and like help these guys move some logs for like a couple hours a day, and then like have a nice
Yes.
little retirement home here. Like that's not so bad. You know, and what are the other alternatives that the animals just, you know, put down? Is, you know, that's not a good alternative, not
Yes.
in my eyes anyway. So yeah, like like we're talking about, the whole theme of today is just do your research and you know,
Yeah,
check things
absolutely.
out, make informed decisions. So
Yeah, because I see we're approaching in on that hour, so we actually covered a bit. But as you mentioned, KP, with everything, even stuff that's mentioned within our official channels, and that is, do your research first. Don't immediately stop supporting an organization because there's voices of corruption or things like that. I'm on the firm belief, no matter what organization, business, entity, or force that you wish to support, there is always going to be some form at some points, whether it's unintentional or intentional, a little bit of mishandling, or there might be a very small form of corruption. It can be as easy as someone stealing pens from the back. But don't just all of a sudden cut support to something. Do your research, because every organization is a victim of the human condition. And humans, if you involve enough people in some place, there is going to be at least one of them that are bad. But mostly in these type of organizations, like we see with facilities, mostly of them have good intentions. But do your research first. And don't immediately, if someone comes and screaming, this place is corrupt, stop supporting them immediately. First, do your research with the place. Speak to the people that are actually within the organization. Ask for accreditations. I mean, I don't think this thing, if you can correct me, KP, I don't think any of these sort of things are private. If they ask you, like, can I see if your facility is accredited? What has been your last information?
Most facilities, like on their website, will advertise if they're accredited.
Yes.
But you can also, like I said, go to azza.org, and it has an entire list, and you can search through it, and you can find facilities. Like if you're going on a trip somewhere, you can search that location and be like, oh my gosh, okay, this facility looks awesome. They're doing amazing work. I want to go visit them. I have a question here from KC in regards to traveling. I've been to quite a few Asian aquariums. I was sad about the small sizes of habitats, particularly for dolphins, etc. Are they government regulated? Like, do these places not value their animals as much as other places? So I don't want to say that they don't value their animals as much as other places. And the idea of habitat size is such a tricky one. It both is and isn't important, is the long and short of it. So there have been studies that have showed this has actually been, in particular, it was done with elephants, but I think that we can kind of, if it's good for elephants, we can kind of translate it into dolphins and really into other animals as well. But this is once again, this is a peer-reviewed article that I read, that they've done studies that have shown that size of exhibit does not matter for elephants. What matters is the quality of the habitat.
Yes.
So it's having it, so you could have the world's biggest cement, just square enclosure, and that's not an interesting place. That's not a good a good place for that animal, because it's just boring. There's nothing there. But if you have a smaller habitat,
yes.
but you're providing enrichment. There's a lot of naturalistic things. There's places for the animal to do foraging. There's all kinds of things and activities happening. That is far more important than the size of a habitat. I think we get very focused on size. That's not to say that there isn't an importance there. Like, obviously you want the animal to be able to turn around. Like, I mean, there are extremes, but in general, size is not the only thing you should be looking at. And again, you can tell a lot by looking at the behavior of the animals as well. I think a good example, and I'm only using the Vancouver aquarium because it's the one I know the most, but like I would say like Finning Pool is not a very large habitat, and some people do comment on that when we have guests. Isn't it a little bit of a smaller area? Well, yes, and of course I would rather there be like huge amazing habitats, but when you look at what's going on, my gosh, there is always new enrichment going on. There's always breaking up of social structures, and you see the animals like very rarely like are they lacking something to do. They're always doing something because things are interesting and things are happening.
Yes.
And even if that's Katmai's breaking off pieces of the habitat, well, that's interesting.
Yes,
There's always there's always some sort of bolt to unscrew somewhere.
Yes.
And but yeah, I mean, so like, yeah, like of course as caretakers, like I wish we had all the space in the world, but that's just not the way that it works. So what we do is we work with what we've got, and studies have shown
do they really need that much space anyway?
They really don't. It's something that we think that animals, people think that animals like commute long distances like for fun, and they really don't. If like sea otters are a great example, they've got all their food in one area. They'll really stay there. Yes, they're really not going to be venturing very far if they don't have to. Whenever they're traveling, it's because they need to. That's a good question about size. It is, again, it's just a tool for you to look at if you're going, okay, the size of this habitat looks a little small. Okay, but what's going on?
Yeah,
like, what are the animals doing?
And happy?
Yeah, how's the behavior of these animals? Oh my gosh, look at all this enrichment in here. Okay, well, maybe this is just a part of a bigger picture. So.
And the otters are a very good example. I mean, as you mentioned, we even have a rule within the Wiggler community that we don't name anything unless it's been there for a week, like an enrichment, because we obviously have names like Gustav, because there has always been something different. You had the big gray pillar that was there, which we should have never named because it hasn't returned yet. But there are specific toys that are not allowed. Have you guys noticed that like Katmai doesn't get like half of this stuff? Oh, really?
There are specific, like the gray pillar is a good example of that. Is that even though that seems like it would be impossible, that is a toy, I'm pretty sure, along with several of the other toys that she is not allowed to have because we are confident that she will use it for evil, to basically to balance on and try to escape from the habitat, because she's a monster and she's very, very smart. So anything that can be used as a stepping stool,
don't give it to Katmai.
We are not giving it to Katmai.
I like V Grace just quoted something from TAZZTALKs. I will break something again.
Again. Yeah, absolutely.
That is actually so true. I mean, it was just like, just saw a Katmai pinch. I think that's Kunik that's sitting on the corner there. I don't know if that.
Yeah.
Just give it a little pinch and
just a little.
But that is true, and this is a prime example of we having exposure to a facility 24 hours a day. We exactly see how they operate, so we're able to make astute judgments. We're seeing that the food is getting there. We're seeing the enrichment going into the habitat. So that's why I'm very conscious about the comments that are made, like you shouldn't be supporting this organization. I'm like, well, I'll support. You can see it happening. You can see what it's doing. You can actually see where it's going. And we have some very happy and entertained otters 24 hours a day. That'll always
Yeah,
give us
I know.
something.
That's a great example of like you guys have learned so much about sea otters, about sea otter
Yes.
behavior, and you're getting to see these animals as individuals. And like if we can even do just a little bit of this when you go to a facility to actually like watch an animal for not just 2 minutes, watch them for like an hour if you've got the time, and like
Yes.
see what they do, and make decisions that way. So.
And that gives a reason to visit an institute facility multiple times. If you're going today, I'm going there specifically to look at the otters. Tomorrow it will be
Right.
another animal.
Right, like if you have a membership, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Have we been backlogging you in questions, Reiha? Are you?
Yes, Reiha, take it
No,
away.
there's actually just one I was actually waiting on that was asked about Rialto's behavior of sometimes appearing to not let Joey out of the pool.
Yeah, so they can get kind of possessive over each other, and it might just be like Joey today. It could be somebody else tomorrow. Rialto is an animal that at times we like gating is one of his like problem behaviors that we're always working on. Sometimes he doesn't
wow.
want to come out, especially of finning pool. So for whatever reason, this is another example. Oh, it's happening. The otters are being crazy. But like this is another example of, people talking about when they say like that finning pool is a small habitat. It is far and away all of the otters' favorite pool. So there's another example. I don't know why. I have zero idea why, but they all love it. So sometimes Rialto doesn't want to come out of that pool. So then if he also finning pool is the lower pool, Barma. I don't know what you guys call it. I can't keep up with you guys.
It's PMB.
We've got
Pacific Meat Bay. Or
Okay.
Pacific Meat Bay. So we just call it PMB.
So if Rialto doesn't want to come out of the pool, but he wants to hang out with Joey, like he's smart enough to know, okay, well, I have to prevent Joey from leaving. So it could be as simple as that. Yeah, I mean, like it's very hard to know exactly what's going on socially, and it changes like so frequently with them. But that could be something that we see, and we see it with all of our otters like in turn, and they'll trade off on different animals too. Like maybe one day they're super interested in Mac and they're like, no, I want to play with Mac. He's not allowed to leave. And it's something that we try to, so that would be a good, hopefully before it gets to that point, we would just like separate the animals. It might mean we've gotten a little bit too static in our social structure, and we want to change it up, and we'll do that a little bit more frequently. So it's something that we're always monitoring with them, but hopefully that answers your question.
It's actually an amazing thing that they will actually like, I want to carry on playing with this otter. You will leave
They're
him
very
with
smart.
me.
Yeah, they're very, very smart.
They definitely are.
And then Barma's asking if we would ever put them all in the same habitat. Yes. End goal is we would love to do that. We only do that for usually for shorter periods of time, like a day at the most, just because it is a lot of otters. and
children.
yeah. And sometimes, like even some of the younger ones need like a little break, like it's got to be nap time, so if you've got 7 otters in there, it can be a little bit hard for the animals to get like their relax time. Yes. But we would love to do that. It makes things really easy for us when we have to clean pools. So that is the end goal. We're just working on getting Hardy to meet Joey, and then that'll all come along pretty quickly after that. So.
Oh, well, we've seen enough incidents with Taz disrupting Joey to know how Joey tries to sleep or nap, and that's never the case.
Don't fight the Taznado.
Yeah. It's one of my favorites. Have any trainers divided into the pool or dived? Oh, we brought up this question before.
Oh, yes,
dived into the pool with otters. I know we've had an unintentional thing.
Yes, it's happened twice that I am aware of unintentionally. Neither of those times was me. I want everybody to take note. But yeah, it does happen. I mean, you know, like, and it's because, you know, we lose concentration for 1 second. Like, you have to really be paying attention in there. And so, and actually neither of these people currently works at the aquarium. So I don't want anybody going, who was it? It was no one.
Please.
But the animals, are actually like usually absolutely terrified when stuff like this happens, because it's so out of the ordinary, like just cannonballing
just
into your
all of a sudden they in the pool.
so they just completely leave us alone, and everything was without incident, aside from one or two very wet trainers. But yeah, it has happened. I fell in with our beluga whales once, so that was I just walked straight off the edge because I wasn't paying attention. So so yeah, it can happen, and it's you know, trainer error. So we're always trying to be really conscious of stuff like that and make sure that we're doing our best job. But it can happen, yeah.
Just before we end off on this side, we actually had footage of the scrunchy incident, but unfortunately the camera was so out we couldn't see Kunik.
I know. I showed it on the stream, and actually all the trainers were like, "Oh my gosh, you have to show me!" And we watched it. But yeah, it was sad you couldn't see her gag. But we actually talked about it on stream because it was kind of a cool example of like the things we get good at as trainers. Like that was such a, like, it was an out of the ordinary thing, and then you just see the trainers, like one of the trainers, you would have guessed that like nothing was going on, and they just, like, you know, everybody just calmly dealt with the situation and then handled it, like within minutes. It was all over. So it's a really cool thing to see, at least for me, that you know, how good we get. And like I was telling my chat, like, if you're in an emergency situation, you want me there, because I like calmly handle fucking anything. Like, I am so level-headed about this kind of stuff, and it's because stuff like that happens all the time. Scrunchy in the otter pool, somebody fell in, you know, I mean, like, you've got to just analytically deal with everything. So
well, it was quickly dealt with. Like, you had the trainer run up, go around the corner because they spotted it, grabbed the little tool to pull it out the water. It was immediately handled very, very well. And as you said, everyone just carried on. Like, no, we still need to feed the otters. Don't stop, people. Just carry on. But it was hilarious. Like,
as long as you act, as long as everybody acts normal, the animals won't even like be bothered with it. So, so yeah, that was super cool to see. That's what I liked seeing about it. But aside from that, it was really funny, and we know that Kunik gagged when she smelled the scrunchy, which
that was amazing.
So funny.
But I think that's the benefit we get from this, and constantly the questions. Like, even when we saw Katma playing with the nut and bolt, it's a chance to be educated on exactly how things work in a zoo, and it doesn't always go right, but this is how to actually know the day in the life of a caregiver is not just, I just go spend time with cute animals and it's beautiful. There's a lot that goes behind there. Yeah, I'm quite sure. Like, you talk about the way Joey won't stop neighing.
Yeah, I mean, and I think like keep asking questions. Like, you know, questions are so important, and some people get a little shy and they're like, this might be a stupid question. There are no stupid questions. If you've got a question, like, and you want the answer to it, like, it's valid, and you should be asking questions about facilities to support and things like that. These are all good questions and good conversations to have. And I hope we keep having them, because I think they're super important.
Okay, well, KP, you're going to carry on doing your stream, if I'm correct, for a little bit longer, or?
Yeah, we're gonna carry on. If you've got more questions, we can field them. We don't have to stay on topic. We can, if anybody wants to know how Joey's doing today or whatever, we can talk about that. But we're also gonna play Planet Zoo. So play some Planet Zoo.
Before we cut out, we are gonna. I believe the goal between the three of us was to keep going with like different themes for each AMA.
Yes.
Weekly. So if anyone has any suggestions, also please feel free to give us some suggestions of what you think would be a good topic that could be covered in an AMA.
Very good points. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, things that you'd like to know. And it doesn't have to be sea otter related. Like, I mean, we'd like to keep it animal related. But
I'm sure one of these days it'll be walruses.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
I can't wait.
Yes. I would like to make a personal request that one of the days we do is the day in the life of a caregiver. Go through, I think that's something.
Why don't we
We don't cover.
Yeah, why don't we
enough
do
of.
that next week's
Yeah.
AMA then?
Sure.
Because as you know, we go back to the donations things. When I specifically say the money goes back to the animals, when I mention that from my personal capacity to chat or that, I am talking about everything that encompasses in looking after the animal, not just their food, but the enrichment, but also the trainers. They have to earn a living, and they have to be able to look after these animals properly, and it is not an easy job. I think we've seen one of the trainers when Joey had his little hurt paw that was spending the night with him in the rain.
Oh yes.
That was amazing to me. My
Yeah,
heart went out.
and painting the paw like every 2 hours with liquid
Yes.
Band-Aid. Yeah, we were there. Yeah.
That was you know, from our side everyone was concerned, but literally someone had to spend the night with Joey, and it was an amazing thing to see. That I'm quite sure most of us would not ever want to spend the night in the rain in a facility that is most likely freezing.
Oh yeah, I have spent countless cold nights. We've been at work for 48 hours in a row. So yeah, cold, wet, it's a thing. But we can definitely get more into that next week when we talk about it.
That's something that'll be interesting. So next week, folks, we will be covering that. The Twitch link to KP's channel is in my description below. So please go take a look at that. And as always, from my side and that, like I said, we do have a merch store that we're currently helping to generate funds for the Otters and Venekwa specifically. So please, if you feel like, because like I said, there's been that say of, should I donate to an organization, shouldn't I? Well, in this case, at least you get a shirt out of it, or a cup, or a towel.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
please,
and the TAZZTALK stuff is so cute.
we love it. We're releasing a TAZZTALK at the end of the week. Thank you for always doing the reaction videos. I really appreciate that. That's always fun. And Hope. We need to see more of Hope.
I know. I was like, what are we gonna do that's different? I don't want it to be the exact same as last week. And I was like, a penguin. I'll bring a penguin. That's what we'll do. So we'll try to keep it interesting. But,
so maybe next there must be one that we do an entire MMA just about the penguins, because the African penguins, my favorite, the jackass penguins.
Yes.
So we must do that. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining. As always,
Yep.
I think the lesson that we've learned here is don't make statements, ask questions, and always do your research and make sure that any information is coming from an official source or the actual facility itself. Please. So,
yes.
if I can end off the question, do you feel that people should still be supporting Venekwa in any capacity?
No, absolutely. I mean, I know there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding things right now and what's going to happen in the future. But I think something that people should keep in mind too, like obviously it's out there that that Oceanwise is looking to sell the aquarium. But guys, this could actually be a really good thing for the aquarium. It could mean some awesome facility buys it and spends a lot of money making sure that everything is like state of the art. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Yes.
So we can't be passing judgments, because it could end up being a really fabulous thing that happens. And so I absolutely, especially when you send your donations to the Marine Mammal Rescue Center, those adoptions and stuff like that. Or I know, like JJ said, buying his merch, he's looking into where best to send that money. But yeah, it is going back into the care and the rescue and the rehab and stuff like that. And the people who keep sending, like whoever sent the popcorn, that was great. We got 2 huge tins of popcorn for the trainers.
Wow.
Also keep that coming. That is definitely going to a good place. No, but your cards and your well wishes and stuff like that, like we do get those, we do read them, and we do appreciate them. So that stuff is nice too.
And we must focus on not what's going to happen in the future, but what is happening now. The facility still needs support now.
Almost more than ever. I mean, we haven't been open for a long time, so your support in a lot of ways. I mean, your support of Joey over the summer was single-handedly what kept the Marine Mammal Rescue Center from closing. So it is your support is important now more than ever. So
thank you very much for your time, KP. And
Yeah, thank you, JJ.
thank you for anyone that's listened. As mentioned, please go give KP's channel a view. There's a lot of interesting stuff. Even if you're not interested in gaming and that, trust me, you'll get engrossed with it. You'll enjoy it. And you can have a conversation. You get to see the ferrets.
Yes, the ferrets
So-
are always available.
So please join it. And thank you, Reiha, for helping us with the questions as well. She's also a streamer and she helps us a lot. So please
Yes.
show your support to everyone.
Support your content creators.
Someone just
And JJ
asked-
and I both have YouTube channels.
Yes,
too,
we
so.
do. Which you're on the YouTube channel at the moment, and you'll see KP's content. I've added her as a featured channel, so she does a lot of breaks up the questions that she might do on AMAs as well. Someone did ask, how do we send gifts? That's
That's a great question. I think you guys I think the people are just literally just sending them to the aquarium's address and just essentially like attention for like trainers or for vet staff or whatever you guys are doing. And if you send those to either person, like we share with work very closely with the vet staff. So yeah. Exactly. Attention, the trainers and the, there's only like 10 people working at the aquarium right now. So don't worry, like we'll get it. Like it's not going to get lost in like anywhere because there's nowhere to hide.
Oh my God.
And I can smell popcorn from a mile away. So Reiha's working at trying to fix my socials cues. It looks like I thought I fixed that, but it obviously
I heard it
didn't
go
work.
like, oh my
Sorry,
God.
no,
Yeah.
it was missing. It was missing something, and I'm just adjusting it. Sorry about that.
But next week, I think we're going to be covering already decided what topic. The day in the life of a caregiver with KP. So same time next week, if possible. Obviously, for now, things change, life happens. But same time next week, please join us again. And we will catch you next week. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much, JJ.
Cheers.